I think my mic's been muted this whole time. It's nothing like technical difficulties. Anyway, what I was saying in all this was today, Debian, 30 years ago, was created by Ian Murdock. And so, and what's important to this is a version of Linux that a lot of major versions of Linux are based off of. Including one that I use on my computer, and you even see the logo up on my hat here. It's an Ubuntu logo. That is my favorite flavor of Linux, Ubuntu. Ubuntu's based off of Debian. So that's why Debian's so important to me. And I apologize that my mic was muted. I must have did that when I had to blow my nose, blow my honker. That happens. I've had sinus problems all summer. Anyway, I will put a link in the description after this thing goes live to Debian's website. This is where you can actually go and read all about Debian. You can even download a version for yourself. This is why, for example, Debian to me is so important. I read this earlier, but my mic was muted, so I'm reading it again. Debian is the base for many other Linux distributions out there, like Linux, Knoppix, PureOS, Tails. Those versions of Linux wouldn't even exist without Debian. And the reason why I like Linux so much, and the reason why I'm a penguin, is because if you didn't know, Linux, the penguin is the mascot of Linux, a mascot called Tux. And I like Linux because of it being free. Now, I have a philosophy about the difference between paying for something and free. For example, you could get a hot dog, and in this economy, probably for about $2.50, $3. Buy a hot dog, get the exact same hot dog with all the fixings and everything. They both be identical, and get a second one for free. And between the two, they are identical. They should taste the same. But weirdly enough, the free hot dog always tastes better. Because why? Because it's baby free. Free, I tell you. Anyway, if I was to reboot my gaming PC right now, I could load into Ubuntu 20.04, which is the version of Linux that I have installed on my gaming PC, and I install Linux on almost all my computers I've got. Now today, it takes a little bit more tech involvement to show a full installation of Debian on a computer. So instead, I'm just going to install it in a virtual box today. We're actually going to install two different versions of Linux. The latest version of Debian, and then a Debian variant called eLive. And it's got like an 80s retro theme to it, and I thought it'd be cool to check that out. So we're going to install these, set them up, and then play with them and see what they look like and see how far Debian's come over the years. I mean, 30 years ago, that's a long time for an operating system to still be around. I mean, look, how many people do you know still mess around with DOS or Windows 95? Not a lot. But Linux has lasted through the ages because the Linux community loves it. It's powerful, it's free, it's secure, it's stable. So anyway, and this right here, like we just talked about earlier, this is distrowatch.com. I'll put links to all these in the description once I go off a live stream. But this is where you can actually go and check out all the latest versions of Linux that exist. So you can maybe see what's out there and play around with it. And if you notice right here, it's even on the right-hand side, it's got a listing of like the ranking of the most popular versions of Linux right now. Linux Mint is another one that is normally for like very new users to Linux. And guess what? It's based off of Ubuntu, which once again is based off of Debian. So Debian has its roots in a lot of different Linux flavors out there. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's switch over to we are going to play with Linux today. Let me boot up the I'll start this thing up here. Come on, fire up. Here we go. Yeah, baby, let's go. And okay, so now we're going to actually install this. And notice right here, this is how, if you were actually to take the DVD ISO and either install it on a flash drive or actually make a DVD out of it and put it in your computer to boot up with, this is what Debian 12 would look like. And let me close my overlay here so you can kind of see what it looks like. This is actually like the boot screen that you would actually see, and you're given a couple different options here. You can even install speech synthesis so that if you're having trouble reading it, it can actually tell you, it can read for you the actual installation. So you can install it for like those that are visually impaired. So anyway, bring me back here. We're going to go to graphical install. And now it's booting up the DVD or the ISO file. And we're actually going to go walk through an installation of Debian. So I installed, I'm going to choose English here for a selected language. Location, the US. Those are what's selected by default. American English. Yeah, I don't speak like Cantonese or something. And it's loading up the installer components for the installation media here. And this will take maybe about 30 minutes to install a full version of Linux. Then we can play with it. And then we'll turn around, and after we get through playing with it, we'll blow it away and format the virtual hard drive and install eLive and play around with it. I'm just going to leave the host name as Debian. I don't have a domain name. I got to set the root password here. And full name of my user. WhataboutBob. Username for account. Yep. WhataboutBob. And then I'm going to put in my password. And then Eastern time zone is where we are. And now it's detecting the actual disks and the partitions that are on that virtual hard drive that we're going to install this to. We're going to use the entire disk, which is a 26 gig VBox hard drive. And we're just going to keep it simple, recommended for new users. I'd normally like to separate out my partitions, but that's not what today's about. Today's about just playing around with Debian, installing it, playing with it. And then we're just going to leave the default. It created a root partition, and it created a swap partition. And I'm going to write the changes to disk. I love playing with Linux. It's fun. More fun than good old other operating systems I won't mention. Oh, sip them if you got them. Sipping on iced coffee would be a good way to do something while installing a version of Linux. Now, you got to be careful if you're completely new to Linux and never installed it and you got a version of Windows on your system, you need to like maybe go out and Google on how to install it alongside so you don't blow away your Windows installation. Maybe I'll create a video on how to do that. That might not be a bad idea. For those that are wanting to actually play around with Linux. But one of the cool thing is you can also download off of Debian.org, you can download what's called a live CD, which basically you burn that to a disk and you boot up off of it, or you actually write it to a USB drive, one that preferably is empty. And then you can boot up off of it and you can play around with Debian without actually installing it. So you can see if you kind of like Linux or not. You can do that with almost all versions of Linux that are currently out there. They offer an option of what's called a live CD. We're not going to scan any extra installation media because I don't have any. I just have the one. And we are not going to use a network mirror because I downloaded the DVD ISO, which is about almost 4 gig in size. So I didn't have to install, from the network, from the internet. Okay, now it's getting ready to install the software and going to let me select some packages and so forth, like the actual desktop interface. No, I do not want to participate in the usage survey. You can always turn that on if I really want to. Okay, this is the desktop environment. There's a Debian desktop environment, GNOME. I'm also going to install GNOME Flashback, KDE Plasma, Cinnamon, and Mate. So maybe we could play around with all those and see what they look like as well. Just curious what the latest version of Debian 12 right up here, actually comes looking like with all this. And once again, I'm sorry, I had a penguin boomer moment with muting my mic at the beginning of this puppy. Forgot. But at least now we're going solid with it now. Woohoo! Installing Linux, baby. Now, this is the display manager, basically what looks like the login screen. We're going to just leave it as GDM3, which is for GNOME. For those of you who don't know what GNOME is, GNOME, KDE, Cinnamon, Mate, all those ones I choose are what the graphical display, what the desktop looks like. In Windows, that's actually called Windows Explorer. In Linux, they have more than one type of way it looks. You can actually download and install themes to make your version of Linux look like a Mac, like macOS, or you can make it look like Windows even, which I've done that stuff before. Matter of fact, there's even I forget the name of it, but there's even a Chinese version of Linux out there that's made in China that makes it look like Windows 98 from the install. You install it and it looks like, no, not Windows 98, Windows XP. Sorry. It looks like Windows XP. China really loves Linux. Actually, most of Europe loves Linux. It's only here in America we are all kind of really biased toward Windows or Mac. But most of the rest of the world likes Linux. And newsflash for you, if you didn't know, if you have an Android phone, it's running Linux because Android is based off of Linux. And this is the long part. This is the part to where you normally you're doing the install here and you step away, go grab a Hot Pocket, put it in the microwave, and eat it and come back. Go get yourself some iced coffee. Go next door and slap your neighbor with a fish. Say you're sorry after you do that because you don't want to be mean. You're just being fun, loving, and playful. Like penguins are. Penguins are awful playful. Still sipping on my iced coffee, baby. Like I said, this takes a little bit. Takes about 30 minutes. And we're not going real long tonight. We're just doing this for a couple hours. Basically, the time it takes to install and set up a working version of Debian and then a working version of eLive and play around with it for a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, it has been a minute since I've installed and set up Debian or any type of Debian variant, with the exception of like Ubuntu. And Ubuntu installation is completely different. It's still at its core underneath Debian, but at the same time, Debian is different, a little bit different. It's a lot more no frills. It's definitely for power users. If you're a new Linux user or want to play around with Linux, I would normally recommend to new people, especially if you're coming from Windows, I'd recommend Linux Mint. If you're coming from Mac, there's a version called Elementary OS, which looks very much like a Mac, gives you that Mac feel. And if I can remember, I'll put that down in the description as well. So links to those two different websites and versions of Linux. So if you want to play around with a version of Linux, you can download the live CD and see if you like it. Just got to be cautious and make sure you don't install it on top of Windows and wipe out everything you got. That's why I'm recommending you play around with a live CD or what's called a live DVD or live CD and put that on a flash drive or if you got a DVD drive and boot it up on that. Yeah, let's see here. Let me do this while we're waiting. I'll show you those websites. For Elementary OS, Actually, I can bring it up on here. And this is what I like about DistroWatch. DistroWatch, if you click on the actual version of Linux you're looking for, it actually gives you a link to their homepage, to their website. Actually, I meant to do this. I meant to open up in a new tab. So tab away from. Okay. This is Elementary OS. And that's actually kind of what it looks like. Matter of fact, if you happen to be on a Mac and you like the look of this, it is a version of Linux. It is definitely very, very beautiful looking. I wonder if there's any screenshots here. There might be screenshots. Okay, here we go. Here's a closer look at what the Elementary OS desktop looks like for the Linux version, which is 7, I believe. It's either 7 or 0.7. And that's what it looks like right there. You can even zoom in here. If you notice right down here at the bottom is like a little, for those of you who are Mac, that you're used to a dock. There's your dock right there. And then, of course, in the upper left-hand corner, you've got some applications you can choose from. And this is actually in the representation of a live CD, because then you could actually select the option to install Elementary. So let's see what the other one I was talking about, Linux Mint. Oh, just right here. And this version I recommend for new users to Linux who are coming from Windows. And it's very user-friendly. Matter of fact, this is the version of Linux that my brother liked. Once again, Linux Mint and Elementary both are based off of Ubuntu, which is based off of Debian, which is the version of Linux we are playing with today. Here's what the normal desktop looks like on Linux Mint. Notice it's got like my computer and everything there. It kind of reminiscent of what Windows looks like. You know what I mean? Got like not a start button, but a Linux Mint button. There's all your applications and so forth. All right, so let's check out our installation here and see how it's doing. All right. As I can tell here, it is still installing. And I think it's taking a little bit extra time because I chose those extra different display managers during the installation. So it's having to install those too. Normally, you would choose just one, unless you're like me. I like having options. I like playing around with Linux. But but normally you would choose like one, like GNOME and KDE are the main two that are normal options for a Linux desktop look and feel. If you like Windows, the standard displays, normally like KDE, will have like a Windows feel to it. GNOME does not have a Mac feel to it, though. It is a Linux feel to it. There isn't a display manager, with the exception of Pantheon, which comes with Elementary OS, that has that look and feel of Mac OS X on it. Or Mac OS, I mean. The eLive should take a lot faster to install, but we're just, like I said, we're just doing the installation here. This is what it looks like to install a version of Linux, at least especially for Debian right here. There may be slight minor differences in other versions. I know like the installer for Ubuntu looks different, but the gist of it, you're still at the end right here after you go through all your setup, like your username and what packages to install and things like that. At the end of it, you're still at this screen right here where it's actually installing the software that you chose on your hard drive. In this case, a virtual hard drive. And this was kind of a last minute thing because I totally forgot that Debian turned 30 around this time. Because like I said, I don't really play with Debian all that much, but Debian's still kind of very important to me because my favorite version of Linux, Ubuntu, is based off of Debian. So in essence, I sort of play with Debian all the time when I'm in Linux, but I really prefer Ubuntu over Debian. And the main reason for that is because I'm a gamer. And there are certain flavors of Linux out there that work best for gaming. Ubuntu is one of them. Arch Linux is another, which Arch Linux is a flavor all on its own. It's not based off of Debian. There's a couple others, like some people like Fedora Core, which is a free community-driven version of Red Hat Linux. Which Red Hat is a commercial enterprise edition of Linux that's normally ran on servers and so forth. But for gaming, there are a few out there. You could use Debian for gaming, but I don't see a lot of people doing that. I see more people using like Antigos, which is based off of Arch, or Arch Linux, or Ubuntu, or Linux Mint, or even Elementary OS. I've used Elementary OS to even play games before. Matter of fact, most people don't even realize this, but Valve, who makes a version of Linux called Steam OS that's actually coming on the Steam Deck, is actually Linux in the background. And Valve has been, for the longest time here lately, been creating a thing called Proton. Proton is a program based off of Wine, which allows you to install Windows games and run them in Linux. Now, some games actually have Linux ports on them. Now, like, for example, my all-time favorite game, No Man's Sky, or what I like to call No Bob Sky, does not have a Linux native version of it. With the exception, there is a version of No Man's Sky on Steam Deck, which is running Linux. But for the PC world, there is not a version of Linux version of No Man's Sky. But I don't need it because Proton runs it just fine, which was developed by Steam. And you can install the Steam store or application on Linux. Matter of fact, there's some versions of Linux that Steam comes pre-installed. Anyway, all right, so Grub is the actual bootloader. Just like NT bootloader is for Windows, Grub is the one for Linux. And by the way, Grub is the bootloader that when your operating system comes up, I mean, when you turn on your PC, the first thing that comes up is it offers you, Grub will offer you the choice of either booting into Linux or booting into Windows. And that's why I mentioned earlier about a dual boot. It means you could dual boot different operating systems as long as you've got the hard drive space and you install them correctly. On your computer, you could actually start up in Windows one day, and the next day you can start up in Linux, which I do that. I'm telling it here which hard drive to install Grub, and we'll see Grub here in a minute once I get through installing and restarting the installation here. Notice now it says finishing installation is detecting my hardware that I've got installed, which is all my virtual hardware here in VirtualBox, which translates to the actual real hardware. Now, I don't normally try to game in VirtualBox. I don't think you can. And that's not what we're going to do today. Today, we're just installing and playing around with Debian. Just taking a look at it and see what's all involved with it. An actual installation, setting it up, booting it up for the first time, which we're going to do here in a few seconds. As soon as this thing gets done, we're finishing up the installation. Come on. Notice right here now it says installation complete. This is actually where you be prompted to remove your installation media. And then you just hit continue, and then it's going to reboot your computer. In this case, my virtual computer. And start up in Linux. Now, this right here is Grub. If there was a version of Windows on this computer also, it would have a menu option to choose, like using the arrow keys here, to boot from either Debian Linux or like choosing Windows. I'm going to choose Debian because Windows is not installed on this. And this is what the Debian Linux looks like booting up. I'm also going to need to install the VMware VirtualBox module so that the graphics looks good. This is not something you would do, but you do it if you're inside Linux. And here you can tell our version of Linux is now at a login prompt. Woohoo! Yes! Debian 12, baby! Let's go ahead and log in here. I'm going to put in my password. And then I'm going to get the default Debian display manager or desktop, basically. And what this is virtual desktops. There's like more than one. I'm going to choose this one right here, and then it will bring it into focus. And then this is actually what you get greeted with after you do initial, after you do this installation, you got to do initial setup. So I'm going to say next for welcome. US English for keyboard. Yeah. Location services, I turn that off. That's when you do a search. It goes out and it tells it dials back home, kind of like what Microsoft does with Windows and what Mac does. You could leave that on if you want to. I like turning it off. I like manually telling it where I'm at. And I'm not setting up an online account, but you can. All done. Start using Debian Linux. And this is the actual desktop, what it looks like by default. Okay. And before I go any further with it, let's go. I need to install the guest editions for virtual CD. And the way I do that, I go up here to activities, and then I open up files. Files is kind of like File Explorer. This is where you can see your hard drive. This is where it's got like home, documents, downloads, pictures, and things like that. And then notice right here, VBox, VirtualBox. I guess the software is already mounted. That's what I just did. So I'm going to run it. Then I'm going to install it. Then it's going to reboot. And what this does is this inside VirtualBox, it kind of installs the virtual graphics drivers so that my resolution looks a whole lot better when I get done. And it should be installing it. Otherwise, you get, by default in VirtualBox, you get what it looks like this. And that's very small. I've got it zoomed in so you can see it better. But I'll zoom it back out once I get VirtualBox guest editions installed. Let's see here. I think I need to open in terminal. And then this is where having an understanding of Linux. Actually, I need to sudo. I think I have to run it as root. Oh, I'm not in the sudoers file. That's fine. So wait a minute. Let me see if I can just run it standard without having to do that, because I really don't want to have to run it as Linux. Oh. There we go. It's executable. Okay. Oh, I typed it wrong. Duh. Once again, this is so I can get the graphics looking okay on this. Oh, permission denied. Probably because I need to run it as. Can't do that. Let me. There we go. I'm logged in as root now. Okay. Let's. This is not something you would actually have to do unless you're running it in a virtual box. Let's just go ahead and run it as root. Go to media, CD-ROM, run as root.sh. Again, try it this way. All right, let's just try this. Just run it manually. What? Hold on here. Let me see if I can just do this graphically. Maybe you'll let me do this graphically. Definitely would be simpler. Can I make it to where it executes? Yeah, it's supposed to execute. Hey, parent. No, I'm not hacking on stream. This is today actually a version of Linux called Debian turned 30 years today. And Debian is a version of Linux that uh, a lot of major versions of Linux run off of. They're made off of. My favorite flavor is Ubuntu, which Ubuntu is actually, that's the logo up there on my little orange hat. That's Ubuntu Linux logo. Ubuntu, if I rebooted my gaming PC, I could and run to choose to boot up in Windows 10 or in Ubuntu Linux 20.04, which is what I have installed. Reason why Debian is so important to me is Ubuntu wouldn't exist without Debian. And Debian is a major distribution of Linux. And I thought since it's been 30 years old today, I would actually play with it on stream. And that's what we're looking at here is the Debian desktop. I just got to installing it and now I'm playing around with it. And what I'm trying to do, this is all in a virtual box. Because if you notice now, this is what it normally looks like without installing the graphics drivers. This is a virtual computer, and I had to install the virtual software. You're claiming I'm hacking and was going to say that's kind of making the evidence for people. No, I'm just playing around with Linux today. You caught me playing around in a terminal. And what I've done right now, this is actually zoomed in so you can kind of see it better. Let me see if I can run this the way it is. Nope. I need to open this in a terminal. And why am I in the OS2 directory? That was weird. That's a dead operating system. Let me try. Here's what I really need to do. Let me do this. Let me go into root. Do I have? I don't have Midnight Commander installed. Okay, let's go into the. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to change the directory to a file. Duh. It's been a minute since I've had to do something like this. All right, let me. Sudoers file. There we go. Nano. Let's hope Nano's installed. Last terminal you saw had a bunch of airplanes around it. Yeah. This is the Linux terminal. You normally don't have to do things in here, but I am. Oh, wait a minute. Why don't I just add myself to the sudo group? Why am I doing this the hard way? I'm having a brain fart today. Let's go into. I want to load up show applications. I want to go into settings. This is why I want to install the VMware drivers because this is like 640 by 480 resolution. Users. Unlock. And let's just... All right, let me do this here. I need to look up something real quick. Let's just do that. Forget doing it this way. Go back to my trusty terminal. And let's go to user. Wait a minute. I probably need to do this. Be root. User mod. A G sudo. What about Bob? There we go. I added myself to the sudoers group. So now I should be able to just do this. Sudo Linux additions. Yeah, brain farts can be fun. Yes, I am. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't log out. Duh. I got to log out and log back in. Well, that locked it. That's not what I wanted to do. It's been years since I've played around with Debian, so I'm getting more familiar with it. We're also going to play and install another version after this called eLive, which has got like an 80s feel to it. We're not hacking anything. We're hacking Linux. Actually, we're not really hacking Linux. We're just playing around with Linux. I know it may look like I'm hacking, but I'm not. Trust me, I know what hacking is, and this is not it. I would also not be stupid enough to do that on YouTube. This penguin may not be smart in some things, but I ain't that dumb. All right, let's see if I can do it now. Try running the software. Come on. It wouldn't do this earlier. I don't know why it wouldn't run earlier. Well, I was having to try to do it the hard way. Normally, you just click on run software and it runs just fine. But for whatever reason, it does not want to play nice today. So let's see if I can do it now. Why can't it execute? Okay, I've obviously got sudo access. There it goes. Boy, that took a little bit to do. Prime and Nittly Batman. We finally got it. Yes. There we go. Now it looks a whole lot better. Now I can go full screen on this puppy. See, look at that. That looks way better, doesn't it? Okay, let's play around with Debian now. Now I got the graphical drivers installed. We go to activities. Notice right here, there's like virtual desktops, but let's look at the software here. It's already installed. We got chess by default. Whoa, chess, people. We have chess. There's solitaire. We got GIMP. GIMP is like free version of like Photoshop, but it does so much more than that. What else we got here? We got, oh, let's look at, where's right? LibreOffice. If for those of you that are, this is like Microsoft Word Office. So for this is free, and actually you can use this and install it on your version of Windows even or on Mac. It's free, open source to use, and it allows you to basically open up a Word document or anything like that. See, this is, I don't want to read the release notes. There is Impress, there is Impress is like PowerPoint, Draw, Calc is like Excel, so forth. Music players, there's Kmail, there's tons of different things you can do in here. And this all comes standard installing on a version of Debian, at least this latest version of Debian. So let's do this. Oh, I locked it again. Why do I keep doing that? I want to log out and I want to change the desktop, the look and feel of the desktop. Okay, there we go. Now, if I go up here, oh, wait a minute. No, I'll go here. There it is, right down here. Notice by default chooses GNOME. Let's take a look at Cinnamon. And this would be a completely different looking desktop. I know, my inner Linux penguin is showing. Okay, now this is Cinnamon, and notice it looks has a look like a little bit closer to like what Windows looks like. If I click on the menu here, and here's all my applications and so forth. There's my terminal that I can choose to open up. Oh, it's also right there too. Here's files, like file manager, so you can go look at my file. I can go look at my files and stuff. Like here's GIMP. GIMP is awesome. I use GIMP daily. I have been using GIMP for years. What allows me to make all my little thumbnails and stuff and so forth. And like this little screen right here. That was made in GIMP. Matter of fact, I used it today. And And you can get GIMP for Mac, Windows, or Linux. It's completely free. And the cool thing is there are tons of videos out there, including even one on my channel on how to use GIMP. Hey, RPG, how you doing, buddy? Glad you're here. You and Perrin both. We're playing around with Debian Linux today because Debian Linux turns 30 years old today. And what's important to that is Debian is a version of Linux that my favorite version of Linux, called Ubuntu, is based off of. If I were to reboot my gaming PC, I could boot it up into Linux, running Ubuntu 2004, or I could boot into Windows 10. So every time I turn on my computer, I got a choice of going into Windows or Linux. And I do that on almost all my PCs. But this is a version of Linux that Ubuntu is based off of called Debian. And we're just taking a look at it. This is a program called GIMP. I was just playing around with stuff. Like, say, I can create a new... Yeah, let's just do this. Let's change the background to, like, say, transparent. And now I can actually go and create stuff. Like, I could type in... let's change it to maybe like 75 size. Change it to like maybe white. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Hey, campers. This is What About Bob typing in GIMP in Debian Linux 12. There you go. I guess I'm just playing around. Let's choose another graphical user interface, a desktop, so we can kind of look at it. Oh, wait a minute. It's over here. Go to quit. Oh, no, I don't want to quit. Each one of these is a little bit different. I want to log out. Log out so I can log back in, but with a different desktop look and feel. Yeah, you have a Windows 11 PC? Yeah. I'm running right now Windows 10, and I've installed Debian Linux in VirtualBox. I was not hacking, Perrin. I missed the dude. I was hacking something. You're funny. You think it's... oh, wait a minute. You know what? I logged in without changing the the display manager or the GUI, the desktop. Come on, log out. I was in terminal. He thinks being in terminal is hacking, which is fine. Most people do. All right. I go here, and then I go down here. The first one comes up is called GNOME. That was a desktop look and feel called Cinnamon. I'm now going to choose one called Mate. And this is all still the same operating system, a version of Linux called Debian. Yeah, I know it looked like it. But notice now this is Mate. And it's got like the applications up here. Places. I can go here to Control Center. This is where I can go in like displays, for example. That's my one display on the virtual here. Network configuration. Time and date manager, that type of thing. I can even go into Synaptic Package Manager. I can actually go and install software. And all this stuff is free. Comes, you know, it's part of the operating system. Let's go to No, not that one. Software. There we go. Of course you do, parent. And you know what? I would not expect anything different from you. Matter of fact, I would think something's wrong with you if you're not ragging or giving me a hard time. It's that simple. Ah, crazy platypus. Harry? Harry the platypus? Could you Harry the platypus? Anyway, notice right here, this is the Debian online store that you could install software from. Let's say, for example, want to create. I could choose this category, and it'll give me an option of like software that I can choose to install. Well, it would, but it's not. Why is it not doing that? How about learn? Really? All right, let's do this. Let's go. Let's type in, like, say, Tux Racer. Help if I can type correctly. Well, it's not seeing it. All right, so let's do this. Let's go. That's how you hide things. I need to go here to console. This is what he was thinking I was doing. That I was hacking. Sudo app get update. Oh, I didn't leave that out. There we go. What? Okay. Let's try installing it this way. Stream Tux Racer. Really? How about just Midnight Commander even? Yeah, there we go. And I'm not really sure why. We can go to Synaptic Package Manager instead. Oh, I think I know why. I think it's because during my installation, I told it not to get the network mirrors. So it doesn't have anything to go out to. Typing has never been my strong suit either, or spelling for that matter. Yeah, me neither. I fake it with the best of them. All right. This is a thing called Synaptic Package Manager. And actually, I can go and search for, like, say, Racer. Oh, it doesn't have it on the DVD. Duh. Or wait a minute. Is the DVD even installed? That's a very good question. It may have taken it. It may have ejected it. It did. It ejected it. Okay. Let's see if I got it now. Should be able to. Oh, wait a minute. Let's just do this. There it is. Okay. That's the DVD image. It apparently ejected it under the CD-ROM, the virtual CD-ROM here. So now maybe I can, because it should be looking on the CDs. I'm just wanting to see if I can get Tux Racer on this. If not, we'll just move on to installing eLive. I just wanted to show what Debian looked like. That's all I was really wanting to do. I wanted to play around with it. No real plan other than just showing what it looks like. This is all the pre-installed software that got installed when I did the actual initial install. But Debian is very bare bones in the first place. There are some games that come with it. Like, say, for example, Mahjong. I like playing Mahjong. It's kind of relaxing. Let's see here. Okay. Doki. I think I sit here and play Mahjong the whole time. But you get the idea. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and I think I got one more that I installed. This way that we can take a look at. Choose WhataboutBob. I'm going to choose, this is a thing called KDE, or they call it KDE Plasma. And this one will definitely give you a Windows vibe. Plasma, made by KDE. Is it loading? There we go. This is Plasma. We got the icon right down here for application launcher. There's our little applications and so forth. Come standard with, there's the system settings icon. So we can bring up system settings. Now this one's very easy. Notice we can change the appearance. We can go in here to say like printers, even audio, display, and monitors. Change it to night color. So it kind of like makes it an ambient light, so it's not as bright at night for you. So it doesn't hurt the eyes. And if you look right here, here's the about the system. Debian Linux 12. Tells you what version of the KDE we're running. Tells me I've got what my CPU and processor and stuff is. That's the amount of memory I've allocated to the virtual. I have 32 gig of RAM on my gaming PC, but I'm only using 2 gig of it right now. That's just an example. So let's go ahead and let's install eLive. So let me shut down. Well, I'm shutting down the thing to bring up the next installer here. Bear with me for a second. And I'll switch over once I get the next disk chosen for eLive. Okay, there we go. Let's start it up. And we'll switch over to the VirtualBox. Is it going to boot? There it goes. And once again, we got to zoom in so you can see it better. And this is what it looks like when you boot up an eLive disk. And notice right here, I got live with installers, so I can actually just, excuse me, boot up with it and play around with it without actually installing it. And there's several different options right here. We are going to choose the latest installer and just boot up off of it and then install eLive, and then play around with it. And this is another flavor of Linux called eLive that's based off of Debian. Just like Ubuntu is based off of Debian, this one's actually running Debian under the hood. And it's probably going to come up in the live CD option. So you get like a desktop and so forth. And then you can actually choose to install it, which is what we're going to do. Yeah. It's giving me a warning about bringing it in a VirtualBox. It's fine. It'll still work. There it goes. And it's got a very stable desktop that it uses its own desktop. I like the looks of this because it is, in essence, it's a got the 80s retro feel. That's why I chose it. So now we're going to install it, and we're going to choose English US. It's already set for US keyboard. And we're going to let it stay for US for variant for the keyboard. The 3D option needs to be enabled in the display settings of your virtual machine. Otherwise, your desktop cannot restart when trying to run some applications. That's fine. I'll eventually turn it on if I need it. Right now, I'm just installing this. So we're going to install the Cairo dock, Honky, Compositor. Okay. There's the dock right there. That's kind of cool looking. No, we don't want to play retro wave music. 1 minute instructions. Oh, that's cool. They got like a little thing here on the side that shows yeah, I need a light cycle. Yeah, in this. It reminds me of kind of like Tron, doesn't it, in a way? But I like how it's giving me like the system information here on the side. The widget, obviously, it's running. All right, so now I got to go here and choose the live installer. Install eLive. Because what this is the live CD you're seeing. So you can actually just play around with it without installing it, but I want to actually install it. This stream tonight was kind of a last minute thing. Okay. There are not many people report bugs these days. I don't want to report the bugs. And I found out that Debian had turned 30 today, so I decided to fire up the stream and play around with Debian. I'm a Linux penguin. All right. Configure options recommended. Yeah, we'll do that. And it's been years since I played with eLive, so I don't really remember a lot about it, but it's Linux. It's still Linux. Use the entire disk for partitioning. That way it's going to format the Debian install and reinstall this on top. Yeah, I'm going to erase it. And we're going to use ext4, which is the file partition type. No, I don't want to use encryption. We're just playing around. Yeah, create a swap partition. And if you don't understand what all this stuff is, that's fine. Some of it's a Linux thing. But basically, the gist of it is we are creating, when you go to like install Windows or Mac OS or Linux in this case, you have to set up a partition where it holds all of your files, the operating system and all your documents and everything like that. And that's actually what we're doing. We're actually going through the process of actually installing eLive Linux on my virtual hard drive here. Matter of fact, it's telling me eLive is being installed on your hard drive. Please be patient. Now, this is the part where we hurry up and wait. The installation will take some time to complete. In the meantime, consider supporting our work. No, I don't want to support it. I support it all. I support it in different ways. The project only survives. Yes, I know. Thanks. Stop asking me if I want to support. It prompted me like 3 times. There's a reason why I like Linux. It's free. I don't have to pay for it. All right. Let's see here. Taking a sip of my iced coffee. Had to do that. I'm almost out of it. Down to the very bottom. Which makes me sad. Because this penguin does love his iced coffee. This is the part we just kind of wait around for it to get done. In the meantime, since this is a live CD, we can play around with the actual system itself here. See what desktop backgrounds we got. Oh, we don't have any in there, apparently. This is a display manager called Enlighten. Very, very bare bones. Looks like we could change the different, LCARs. Oh, look at that, baby. Star Trek all the way. It's got the LCARs theme. Oh, let's see here. We got 23 ounce glass. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. Move this over here. Detroit. That's the one I think we were. No, that ain't the one we were originally on. That was close. eLive Dark. That's the one we were originally on. Evolution? What's Evolution? Ooh, Evil Evolution. That looks kind of cool. A little fringiness over here. Orange juice. That's. Uh-oh. Did it? Nope. Okay. I'd say for a minute I thought it stopped installing. Ah! Okay, this is where we got to choose a host name. And, well, sure, that's fine. eLive Spaceship. And this is where we get to choose our features. Bluetooth support, printer, scanner. We got those all turned off. SSH remote. We don't necessarily need that. System D. Disk utilities. No, we don't really need that. We can install Blender, which is a 3D modeling software. It's free. Let's install the games and emulators, though. GIMP. We don't need it. Inkscape. And we don't have to install the Office stuff because we already did that before. Software Center. We're going to install that. Install specifically designed, selected designs and customizations. Yeah, install all the suggested extra themes, desktop themes. Yeah, I'll use that. There we go. Ooh, now what? Choose what browser you want to install. Google Chrome. That's one by default. Sure, why not? Just Google Chrome. Yeah, this is all the stuff it's removing once it gets done with the installation. We can install stuff like Skype or Zoom. We can even install Steam, video game distribution service. These were not options on the bare bones version of Debian. But that's why there's so many different flavors of Linux out there. And this happens to be one that is kind of popular with people that like to customize their desktop. Working, do not close this terminal. This is part of the installation process. Let's go back and take a look at more themes here. Retrowave, that's the one that's the one I think we were originally on. Black E. Well, that's kind of cool looking. I like that. What else we got here? Blue steel. Oh, it's kind of blue steel looking. E13. Wow, look at that. That's the terminal. There you go, Perrin. It looks like I'm using a terminal what you think is hacking. Then there's winter. Oh, that ain't bad. I think the one I really like the most, though, I really like the L cars because I'm a Trekkie. Look at that. That is so cool looking. Well, it's actually the other way around. Most people don't realize, but DOS was actually based off of Unix. What Microsoft and IBM both did when they created PC-DOS and MS-DOS, they took a Unix POSIX-compliant operating system, which is what Linux is. Linux is just a different type of version of Unix. It's still POSIX-compliant. They took the kernel and they stripped out all the stability, all the security, the multi-user capability, all the stuff to the standard Unix kernel, and created DOS. And then Windows is just basically a nice shiny GUI that's still got DOS kind of in the background in a way. Although latest versions of Windows, like Windows NT, is a little bit different. They did swap Windows NT, Windows 2000, XP, 7, 8, 9, not 9, 9 never came out, 10, all the way up to 11 are all kind of like the GUI is the main operating system with DOS underneath. Where with Linux, the terminal is the main operating system and the nice and shiny GUI just sits on top. But yes, I get what you mean. Most people look at this and they think, oh, that's like a DOS prompt. Yes and no. It sort of is. It's like a command prompt in Windows. But it's a lot more than that. It's actually the operating system. Because I actually could run a full version of Linux without a graphical user interface at all. I do it all the time. And still do things like I can on a computer that had the graphic, the desktop look and feel. But what you're seeing right here in this terminal is the installation. You're actually seeing it happen in real time. All the stuff that's being currently installed. And see, look, it's going out to Debian.org to get certain things. No problem. Be right. Hurry back. Yep. Fun times just watching it install. Matter of fact, I'll be right back. I gotta go grab something real quick. And it's just I'm gonna leave it here on this screen so you can continue watching it install. Okay, I had it muted again. Okay, we're back. And it's still doing the install process here, but it looks like it's prompted me now, asking me for some information. Username, what about Bob? Real name, what about Bob? Password. I don't want to auto log in. Privileges to install packages. Yep, grand sudo. That would have been nice before. Okay, it's continuing on installing. I went got me a couple of Slim Jims here, and I'm going to try to do my best not to eat them directly into the microphone, but that's why I stepped away for a second, was to grab some Slim Jims. Gotta step into a Slim Jim, like Macho Man used to always say. Yeah, boy. I can't do his voice real well. Starting to get a little hungry. So we're going to get this installed and play around with it for a little bit, and then I'll probably call it a night so I can go grab me a bite to eat. That's why I like the Slim Jims. They're great for snacking. And it's still installing now. It's installing the 386 architecture stuff on it. So it's backwards compatible with some type of 32-bit software if you need to. Installing Grub, the bootloader. Looks like it's getting ready to finalize the actual installation here. It's done. Says congratulations, you've installed it, and you can now reboot to start playing with it, which is what I'm going to do. Yes, reboot. And I'll probably have to do the same thing I did with Debian, is install the VMware graphics drivers. Not VMware, but VirtualBox. People want to say VMware. VirtualBox graphics drivers. Well, maybe I don't have to. Oh, it's finishing up the installation by removing the install files. All right, here we go. Here's it again. Yep, I'm gonna have to install the VirtualBox graphics drivers. Well, maybe not. Never mind. Everything looks fine. Before you start using your new desktop, we need to configure a few things. Yep, I figured. Okay. I'm going to choose some of these things I don't need to mess with. Let's see here. That's pretty cool. I didn't need to install the VirtualBox stuff. Eli, can you remember a specific desired resolution for your virtual machine screen? You want to set it for a specific resolution? Nah. It's already at the resolution I like it to be, which is 1080. Okay. Look at that. I love that. Changed the background, did it? Oh, looky there. There's the shortcut keys. I don't really need that. There's enlightenment. Shortcuts. There's the file system. What's it doing? Oh, it's because, it logged me out. All right, let's try this again. I apparently did something that caused it to want to crash. It's probably because of the being in a virtual box. So there's my home directory. I can left click on the desktop here and it brings up all the little options coming. Oh, mix. The DJ software mix is already installed. Come on. I use this software every Saturday to DJ with in Second Life. Let's see if it's going to let me Yep, I can reschedule without crashing. Okay. That's just kind of cool that this version of Linux came pre-installed with Mix on it already. Pretty sweet. See what else there is here. See what games we got. Well, there's a DOS box simulator. There we go. There's a DOS prompt. Let's install. See if we can install TuxRacer. I'm looking for software installer. Software right there. Let's go shopping. This is the software store. Currently downloading what software is available from the Debian repositories, online software repositories. Okay. I can go here and explore some games, maybe. I just want to see if TuxRacer, if I can even play it or not. Let's see if I can search for it. Wanting to type in Razor, the Racer. It's searching the repositories, the online store, to see if it can find any program called Racer. I wonder if I got to do this first. Where is terminal? There it is. I like the Yale cars. All right, so terminal. Let's type in sudo app update. Maybe that's what's wrong. It didn't actually update the online repositories for the store. That's what I'm doing now. I'm making it update the repositories. There we go. Okay, so now back to software. There we go. That's what I needed to do. There's Extreme Tux Racer. Let's go ahead and install it. Now, this is eLive Linux. It's still based off of Debian, but the cool thing is it's a little bit more user-friendly. It comes with stuff that's already easier to set up and things like that. Notice I didn't have to even install the VirtualBox graphics drivers. Sure, let's launch it. Close it. It prompted me to. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to close this. Why didn't it show up underneath there? That's weird. It's got OBS already pre-installed. Dude. It's OBS and Linux, which is what I use when I'm in Linux and streaming from Linux. That's cool. That came pre-installed, baby. Didn't have to install it. There's Steam. I chose this flavor of Linux since there's two reasons. One, it was based off of Debian, and the other thing is it can be used for gaming. Because it has, I figured it had Steam pre-installed with it. So you don't have to actually go through the process of actually going and getting Steam. There's Extreme Tux Racer. And should have sound. There we go. Now you can hear it. Let's see if I can't do. Who says penguins can't fly? See if it'll let me. It's sort of got some 3D drivers installed in it, so I'm able to do this. It's a little choppy. It'd be a whole lot smoother if I actually had 3D drivers installed, but you normally can't game too well in VirtualBox. So it is what it is. Oops, oops. I love this game. It's so chill and relaxing. And for the longest time, I used it also for my AFK screen when I'm gaming. I still got it set up so I can do that. I just not been using it lately. Well, stone on my belly. Stone burn. Whoa. Okay. Now we played with that. See what else we got here we can play with. Emulators. RetroArch. I don't think I have any ROMs installed though. Look at that. And that comes pre-installed. I'm liking this. Yeah, make Google do not send statistics. It must be opening something up. Oh, it went to the RetroArch Retro Gaming set up on elive.org, elivelinux.org. Meanwhile, Steam is still doing its thing in the background. Nah, I don't want a web tutorial. I was just looking at it. We're not going to play anything because I'm going to go eat here in a few minutes. Let's quit RetroArch. Looks like Steam's coming up. Yep, sure enough, there's Steam. I ain't gonna log into it. I just want to show that it is on here. Yeah, it's obviously didn't have 3D drivers installed because look at this. This is a mess. Super Mario War. What's that? Ooh, look at that. Press A key, continue. It's apparently a two-player version of Mario. Interesting. All right. Well, I've done enough damage for tonight. I'm going to go grab a bite to eat, but I just thought I would share with you that Debian's turned 30 years old. If you are into that kind of thing, you like Linux or not, or if you just want to see what this silly little penguin's up to. Either way, I'm glad you joined in and that you came and watched the video or live stream or whatever. And as always, I'm the crazy little geeky Linux penguin named WhataboutBob. And I'm out the door because Windows just had the blue screen of death. Later, peeps.